What's going on, everyone? Climate Data Report here for today's long range leap, and it's Thursday, so we're going to do the drought update today. First off, starting off the drought update, the East Coast is pretty much spared from drought, with exceptions to Florida, where there is moderate drought conditions, which is kind of normal for this time of year. And we could see some of that get eradicated and washed away as time goes on. There could be some chances for precipitation, nothing too widespread, but something that could definitely help the situation. The mid-sections of the country, in the North Plains and the Southern Plains, drought conditions still continue in Texas, with the heart of the drought being in Oklahoma and portions of Kansas, even up into Nebraska, where there's severe drought in those three states. The West Coast, yes, you're seeing drought on this map, but it is really improving in California, and that's going to continue to improve. I'm not too concerned about any existing drought conditions in the West because the atmospheric river is starting up again. Check this out. The storm that's going to be coming on shore on the West Coast, the WPC, Weather Prediction Center, issued a rare Day 2 high risk. It's rare to get them on Day 1. That's only 4% of days. They did one on Day 2 because of the excessive chance of rainfall. Let's take a look at this more closely. Look out on the west. You have a high risk on the coastal area. You also have a small strip where there's a high risk in the mountainous area. So this is really interesting, and it's something we have to keep watching. Take a look here at the precip map. Here's the next 1 through 7 days on the Weather Prediction Center. Taking a look in the south, we do have a couple threats of precipitation. We also have 2 coastal storms that we're watching for the northeast, with the first one being tomorrow night in the Saturday, and then a second one that we really have to keep our eye on for Monday night into next Wednesday. The West Coast, the heaviest rainfall will be in California. As you can see here on this, look at portions of California here, and you can see the mountainous areas, 10 to 15 inches of precipitation over the next 7 days. The coastal areas, 3 to 6 inches of precipitation, with isolated amounts on this map up to 10 inches. Let's take a look at the models for the next several days. And we'll start off with the GFS model here. You can see our active system coming on the west. Here's our system in the east that's going to transfer to tomorrow night into Saturday. And it's this west coast system that we're watching in the longer range. First, it's going to cause all kinds of havoc in California. Then there's going to be 2 areas of energy, one in the southern stream, one in the northern stream. It's how this system unfolds as it hits the southern coast that remains a question mark, and as it continues its journey to the northeast. The GFS has a developing coastal system off the Carolinas, but it is slow to get its act together, and it is further east. Here's the other northern stream energy, and they don't really get going until it's in New England. And as you can see here, this is a pretty sizable snowstorm for Massachusetts. But watch here. We're going to focus on 12Z Tuesday, which is Tuesday morning. I reversed this back 3 runs. Look what happens. It was further north, and it was faster moving. It has slowed down and is further south, which is relatively interesting. The system then continues. And, it's a pretty sizable coastal system for portions of New England. However, there are other solutions. Let's go to the GEFS, which is the ensemble of the GFS, and we can fast forward that to the same time frame, 12Z Tuesday. As you can see here, the storm gets going off the Carolina coast. But then you get to 12Z Tuesday. Here's the system, similar to the operational GFS, and it's also similar in the fact that for the last 3 runs, it has trended slower and more south. Now let's take a look at the Canadian model. The Canadian model is showing another solution which is a little bit bigger than what we saw on the GFS. Here's our southern energy. It gets going off the Carolinas. Here's the northern energy, and it gets going faster and more northwest. This is a heavy rainfall for southeast Pennsylvania, portions of New Jersey into Delmarva, right on into Long Island. You're seeing really heavy rainfall. And look what happens in upstate New York. It changes over to snow. Now, if I go to 6Z Tuesday, which, mind you, this is faster than what the GFS just showed. Look at this. You're talking about a 984 millibar low over Long Island. So you're talking coastal flooding problems off the southern New England coast Very heavy rainfall along the coast, heavy snow in the interior, and now we get to 12Z Tuesday. Vermont, major snowstorm, 93 millibar low essentially right over Boston, and this just continues into Tuesday night, and finally exits the area on Wednesday, but I'll say this, it's very slow to exit. Then came the European model, which came in this afternoon, and that has the most extreme solution of all the models. So the system comes on shore out west. You have two systems here, the northern one and the southern one. This quickly gets its act going in the south. As you can see by Georgia and the southeastern states, there would actually be somewhat of a severe weather threat. And as soon as this transfers to the coast, it is already cranking up here. Look at this. You have a 1001 millibar low off the Carolinas. As soon as it gets east of Virginia, it's already 995 millibars. Coming up here into Pennsylvania, look at this. This system really gets cranking. And look at that. It's 983 millibars well east of New Jersey and Delmarva. Snow into much of Pennsylvania and upstate New York. However, Philadelphia through Boston, it's a rain event for you. Then it does mix in. The low continues to bomb. And eventually it goes down to 969 millibars. Interior Massachusetts, Maine, and even southern Vermont and New Hampshire. Very heavy snowfall. The European actually shows 15 to 20 inches of snow with localized areas above 2 feet. So that's extremely impressive. And the Euro actually shows the storm system stalling out. Do I buy this track? Crazy solution? No, and I'll tell you why. It's a little bit extreme. I think in the end result, what we're going to happen, let's take a look at one last piece of guidance. Let's take a look at the European ensemble, which is fairly similar to the operational. As you can see, the storm develops here off the Carolinas. It does get going, and it gets going pretty strong, but it is a little bit more northeast than the op. And yeah, it does stall out, but I think what we're going to see happen is the GFS model is going to continue to trend slower with the system, and it's going to trend south and more organized. I think we're going to see the European back off a little bit. So we're going to see a compromise of the models. Same with the Canadian. I think the Canadian's a little bit too far west. It'll probably shift east a little bit, and we'll see a compromise. What does that mean? That means that somewhere along the I-95 corridor, let's just say from about here, Richmond, all the way up into Maine, somewhere northwest of this orange line, you're going to get yourself a decent snowstorm. I would start paying attention to the forecast between Monday night and Wednesday, and there's the potential for a significant amount of snow, especially in New England. If this thing can get going fast, we're talking a sizable snowstorm where there could be, major snowfall amounts. Southeast of there, it's a question mark. How much cold air will this system have to work with? Will it be cold enough for snow? We need to wait and see. Right now, I would just pay close attention to the storm. Nothing's set in stone yet. We'll talk about it more in the next coming. Moving on now to the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. Taking a look at the West Coast, this is from the Weather Prediction Center. West Coast will be below average temperatures, as will much of the eastern coast. Near normal temperatures in Texas and Oklahoma region, with near normal up in Maine and down in Florida. Finally, 8 to 14 day average, much of the country is below average temperatures, with above average temperatures down in southern Florida, near normal up in Maine, and the mid-Atlantic slightly above average temperatures. Alrighty, that does it for today's long-range leap. We will have another long-range leap tomorrow afternoon with an update on the potential for that coastal storm in the northeast for next week. That could be a strong one if all comes together correctly. And we'll also update on the flooding situation out west in California. If you like the content on this channel, hit the like button. If you want to see more of my content in the future, give the channel a subscribe. Until next time, enjoy the weather you have where you are.